Why is Ireland so rich? I mean, on paper, it's not like that prosperity is reflected in the everyday lives of its people, because despite being one of Europe's wealthiest countries, many Irish citizens don't feel particularly wealthy. Housing costs are some of the worst in Europe, and for those who can't afford a home, renting isn't much better. In Dublin, the average rent for a two-bedroom apartment can exceed 2,000 euros per month, while the average house price has surged to nearly 400,000 euros. And that isn't the only problem, because wages are stagnant at the same time that the cost of living has skyrocketed since 2020. Ireland's healthcare system is notorious for long wait times, while childcare is some of the most expensive in Europe. Lots of people might blame the presence of tech giants that have set up shop in Ireland, companies like Apple, Google, and Facebook. And as the thought process goes, these companies use Ireland as a tax haven and give back very little to the country in return. But with the second most progressive tax system in the entire developed world, it's not like Google is the reason Irish people are struggling. Instead, there's actually a far darker reason for the disconnect between Ireland's apparent wealth and the everyday struggles of its people. And it has to do with the way the government is spending its money. In 2015, Ireland's budget stood at just over 50 billion euros. Today, it's over 96 billion. And what is there to show for this massive growth in the size of government? Well, a host of new non-government organizations that feed off Irish taxpayers. These quasi-NGOs or quangos ostensibly exist to promote things like tourism, business, and even the country's cuisine. But in reality, many of them exist to simply, perpetuate their own existence. Take the quango responsible for promoting Irish food. Do they really need 57 million euros a year to promote cuisine? Don't famous Irish brands already do that themselves? Why does the government need to take money from taxpayers in order to do Guinness's job for Guinness? Even more troubling is the fact that other NGOs operate as a mechanism to influence public opinion on the taxpayer's dime. This means Irish citizens are often forced to fund public policy campaigns that they're out in the streets protesting against. And this brings us to the heart of the problem, because there is no force in the Irish government that seems to be concerned about the wasting of taxpayer money. Virtually every major party in the Irish parliament is on the left, and they are much more concerned with criminalizing speech than finding ways to reduce the cost of living, housing, childcare, and healthcare for the people they claim to represent. And this is a huge reason why independent candidates are surging in the polls ahead of the country's 2025 elections. What has happened in Ireland is a classic case of what the economist and political philosopher Frederick Bastiat once warned about. He once stated that when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. The fact is, Ireland has all the economic strengths to become one of the richest countries in Europe, not just on paper, but in real life. And they probably will be, just as soon as the current crop of politicians are replaced with ones that realize that the strength of the economy is found in free people working in voluntary cooperation with one another, not cronyist organizations living off the sweat of taxpayers.
Do you have a why you would like us to answer? Go into the link in the description and pose your question, and maybe the next Why Minutes will be dedicated to you.